Hello, my fellow horror fanatics, and welcome back to October Horror Fest. Today I am reviewing my favorite crossover action horror series, Underworld. Underworld is a mythology film based around vampires and lycans, aka werewolves. Underworld was made on a budget of $22 million and was released in theaters on September 19th, 2003, and managed to make a solid $95,700,000 at the box office. Underworld's plot is vampires and lycans have been at war for centuries, and each side is determined to destroy the other, and the human race is completely clueless to what's going on. The vampires have death dealers who are vampires that are trained in all forms of combat, and their job is to hunt down and destroy lycans. Celine, who is played by the very talented Kate Beckinsale, is one of the most effective death dealers, and she is really good at her job. Celine tracks down two lycans who are following a human who is named Michael Corvin, and the reason why at first is unknown, but it will be revealed later that Michael has a major purpose to play. Celine, after a huge battle with the lycans, retreats to her vampire coven with a shocking revelation. It is believed that the vampires have eradicated most of the lycans, but Celine knows that's not true, but of course, no one believes her. But the lycans have somehow developed a new type of fused alloy round that can kill a vampire with a single shot. Nice weapon to have against a vampire. Okay, the vampire coven is getting ready for the arrival of their vampire elder, Amelia, who is one of the three vampire elders, along with the vampire council. The reason for their arrival is two vampire elders stay dormant at all times, so that the one elder can rule for 100 years without any conflicts. But at the end of each of their terms, they awaken another elder, and the current elder must pass all their knowledge of what's happened over the last 100 years onto the next elder before they begin their own slumber. I have to admit, the vampires certainly have an effective way of keeping order by having each elder rule for 100 years, then handing the torch over to the next. It certainly avoids conflict, at least among the elders anyway. Celine, knowing that she's right, decides to track down Michael Corvin wanting answers, but of course, he has no clue why the lycans were following him. And suddenly the lycans leader Lucian, who is supposed to be dead, shows up and after a pretty awesome battle, bites Michael so he can get a sample of his blood. And the reason why is actually very clever. Alright, after getting away from the lycans, Celine passes out from her injury and crashes her car, but Michael manages to save her. Later, after Celine recovered, she took Michael back to the coven, and it's discovered he was bitten and will turn into a lycan, so he makes a quick getaway before the vampires can kill him. While Celine begins to question the history of the vampire, especially the part about the head of security, a vampire named Craven, who supposedly killed Lucian centuries ago, and it's revealed that Craven's actually working with Lucian on a plan to kill the vampire elders so he can take control of the vampires for himself. I honestly wasn't surprised by this revelation. Craven had traitor and an egotistic personality written all over his face. Celine, realizing something bad is about to happen, decides to break the vampire's most sacred law and awakens the vampire elder Victor, who is responsible for turning Celine into a vampire. And I'm sure you guys are thinking, so she woke him a day early, big deal? Actually, it's a very big deal because the vampire elder she woke is actually not supposed to be woken for another 100 years. So Celine is really crossing the line to the point where if she can't prove her case, she could be sentenced to death by the vampire council. But honestly, that's how badass her character is, and it's freaking awesome. After Celine takes Michael to a safe house and has a nice conversation with him, which allows for some decent character development between the two, she locks him up and goes back to the coven to speak to her mentor, Victor. After a very heated father-daughter type of conversation, Victor, not convinced by what Celine is saying, has her literally sent to her room to await her punishment. While this is going on, the lycans attack and kill the vampire council, and then they drain the blood from Amelia, and she's killed. Though I was surprised as a vampire elder that she couldn't put up more of a fight, but it was an ambush. Celine, knowing she's right, escapes and goes back to Michael, but then the lycans show up, and after a battle they capture Michael and drive off. But Selene captures the Lycan's scientist and drags him back to the Coven, and once in front of Victor, and with some effective persuasion, she makes him tell Victor that the reason they were after Michael in his body, there's a virus that was responsible for the creation of both vampires and Lycans, but that the virus in Michael's blood is a pure sample, and if either species were to inject the virus, then add DNA from the other species, they would become a hybrid. So that's the reason Michael's so important. Imagine if you're losing a war, but if there was a way you could add the abilities of your enemy and make you stronger than either side, that would certainly give you an edge in the war. He goes on to say Lucian plans to become a powerful hybrid, and Craven, realizing he's busted, escapes. Victor is told the Council and Amelia have been killed, and he orders his forces to kill the Lycans, and he tells Selene to kill Michael. I have a feeling she won't be able to follow that order. At the Lycan's lair, Michael, thinking the Lycans are the enemy, is shown the truth by Lucian that the war between vampires and Lycans started when he got Victor's daughter Sonia pregnant, and Victor, fearing a combination of both species, has his own daughter killed? Yeah, okay. Clearly the vampires are suddenly the real villains, and that's a nice twist in the story. The vampires show up at the Lycan's lair in an awesome final showdown, featuring a really solid battle and a lot of fighting, and it's a blast. Selene, in the middle of the battle, manages to get to Michael, but she doesn't want to kill him, so she tries to help him escape, but they encounter Craven, who had gone there to hide like a coward, and he shoots Michael with a gun containing silver nitrate rounds, which is basically the vampire's version of the werewolves' ultraviolet rounds, and they're just as deadly. While Michael is dying in pain in Selene's arms, Craven tries to get her to leave with him, which I forgot to mention. He has a fantasy that she will be his. Yeah, right. Not gonna happen, buddy. When Selene refuses to go with him, he reveals that Victor killed her family, and not wanting to believe it, he also tells her that Victor killed his own daughter, and she suddenly knows he's telling the truth, but she won't leave Michael, who she clearly cares about, so he goes to shoot her when Lucian, who Craven had shot earlier, shows up dying, and after stabbing coward Craven in the leg, and he falls to the ground whining like a baby, Lucian takes the opportunity to tell Selene to bite Michael so he will become a hybrid, and she does. Craven finally pulls the dagger out of his leg, and he kills Lucian, then escapes. I guess the coward will be in the sequel, but I wonder how long he'll last. Victor suddenly shows up, and right after throwing Michael right through a concrete wall, ouch, he admits to Selene that he killed his daughter to protect the species, and that he killed her family, but he tries to defend it by saying he's given her so much in return, and then he goes and tries to kill Michael, but Selene, not only wanting revenge, realizing that Victor, the man she considered her family, is a monster, but she also wants to save Michael, so she pulls off an awesome ninja type move and kills Victor, ending the battle. And now both Selene and Michael leave, but they will both be considered enemies of both species. The film ends with the dead Lycan scientist's blood pouring into the chamber of the third and only remaining vampire elder, Marcus, and his eyes suddenly open, and the film ends. Well, that was Underworld. So what do I think of the film? I think the film's excellent. I really like the story of a war between vampires and Lycans being fought for centuries without the humans having a clue. The film's plot is solid, offering equal story time for both vampires and Lycans, and delivering many twists and turns, especially for the main character, Selene. I really like the action sequences, they are really well done, and I like all the new weapons, especially the fused alloy and silver nitrate rounds. The acting is really good, and I like how Kate Beckinsale plays Selene. I like the cold, serious personality of her character, and as the film progresses, we get to see her show more emotion, plus her outfit for the film really makes her look like a badass. I also like Kate Beckinsale and Scott Speedman's on-screen chemistry between their characters. It's really solid. I think Underworld's a pretty good film, and one I highly recommend you check out. Tune in tomorrow when I'll be reviewing Underworld Evolution. I will talk to you guys later. This is the Entertainment Wizard, signing off.